Okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're always looking for topics, so if you have any ideas, let me know. And looks like we have 20 people so far. So with this, I'll hand it off to, I asked him how to pronounce his first name, Yizhou. Is that correct?
Pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'll
do it better, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's part of a new team that's in our observatory building down in New Mexico, and they've got some really great equipment, and they're using a newer program called Voyager. And I think quite a few of us would be interested in it because quite a few of us have equipment down there now, and a lot of us have space where we can add more telescopes on top of our single mounts. And so with that, I'll hand it off and go ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. Let me share my screen, and I haven't done this before. Let me know if it works. How do I share my desktop? Can you guys see my screen all right?
Yes.
Perfect. How do I minimize this thing? Whatever. Well, I do that. Okay. Good evening, guys. Thanks for having me here tonight, and thanks for joining me for a quick presentation I put together on these topics. So my name is Yizhou Zhang. I am kind of a hobby astronomer in San Diego, and as Dan mentioned, recently a team of 4, we formed an imaging team and moving into the remote observatory that Dan has down in New Mexico. That's how we got connected, and during our chat, he got to know that we've been using a program called Voyager. This is kind of just an astrophotography automation integration program, and we really like it. There's a couple of good things about it, and I'm going to highlight it throughout the presentation. And also, as Dan mentioned, we use it to control 2 scopes on a single mount simultaneously, which is pretty cool. I'm going to touch upon that a little bit as well. So I put together this quick presentation basically around the introduction of Voyager. And any questions throughout the presentation, let me know. I'm going to look at my other screen, so I'll be looking like this. But let me know if you have questions, if I'm going too slow, too fast, whatever. And here we go. And I realized that I put a lot of labels here. I have no business market affiliation with any of those, so I hope it's all right. For the presentation, I'm kind of break down into these chapters or sections, if you will. I'm gonna talk very little about myself. This is not the main topic of, not that anyone's interested in, but this is first time I see you guys and just want to say hi. I want to talk a little bit about the astrophotography automation. I think people here more or less experienced to that, just the different components and how we want different tasks to be achieved. Then it naturally transitioned into the introduction of Voyager. Specifically, I want to point out some highlights of the Voyager, that some neat features that I really like, and I want to talk a little bit about that. And finally, we'll become a little bit open-ended, open roam, and we'll try to do some live demo to show you the interface and this and that. And I also have some pre-recorded videos that I can quickly play, and I can explain what they do. And any questions, of course, let me know, and I'll try my best to answer. Very quickly, a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Shanghai, China, a big city. I came to US in 2010. I came to Madison, Wisconsin, a beautiful small town for my graduate students, for my graduate study. After graduation in 2017, I moved to San Diego, which is a pretty nice place for my to start my career. And recently, we start visiting New Mexico by moving into a remote observatory here. I try to summarize my evolution in terms of astrophotography. Basically, throughout the time, I moved from pretty super beautiful but not very astrophotography friendly cities, and we have less than ideal light pollution as well as the clear nights yearly. It's a nice place. Pay a visit if you can. And in 2010, as I mentioned, I came to Madison, Wisconsin, which is a pretty good place. Beautiful, beautiful summer and early autumn, if you will. But the rest of the year is kind of freezing. But this is the time I got exposed to astrophotography a little bit more. I got exposed to a website called Astromart, and you guys probably know how bad that is. But basically, I started to get a little bit more serious into astrophotography. I got my first, for example, go-to mount. I got my first COOT camera. I still remember I doing this stuff outside in the winter, kind of stay overnight roughly. And it's super fun, exciting.
Did he drop out?
Is it just me, or actually is breaking up?
Now you're good now.
No, he just started breaking up.
We're just getting a mood with a rat walking across the keyboard.
It was crystal clear. It's it sounds computer voice.
Moog synthesizer with a cat walking across the keyboard.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all now.
No sound at all.
We can see your image.
Wonder if he can
He
hear
just sent a
us.
note saying he's lost audio on the chat.
Ah, okay. So use a second screen to show the audio, show the cue cards.
From here.
What is that part of Star Wars where they're in the cantina? That's
Yep.
what this is.
Sounds more like the voice of Foreman.
That's about right.
Or Max Headroom when he starts stuttering.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's just you. I'm responding to his chat with
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Might be his mic.
Well, I know that I think that's a that's an internet problem. I think for sure, a connection problem. Uh-oh.
Let's see if he reconnects.
Oh yeah, he dropped already.
He shouldn't have a problem with sharing his screen. We can hear his voice. You know, instead of using his camera, just be sharing his screen. I don't know why he had to open up 2 different accounts or log in 2 different times.
Oh, he said actually one is from his phone and one is from his computer, right?
He said what?
He said they actually have 2 connections, right?
Yeah.
One from the phone, one from the computer, maybe.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better, way better.
Yeah, we.
All right, let me.
Sounds better. Yeah.
That's better. My apologize. Okay, I'll get rid of the headphone.
What you got? You got Spectrum Internet?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Who's your internet provider?
Let me try to share my screen again. I'm not. Was I broken from the beginning?
Oh no. Right about the time the snowman. Right about the time the snowman popped
Yeah,
up.
that's not important. It's just a snowman. But okay, I guess right now we're okay, right?
Perfect. Yes.
Sweet. Okay. As I mentioned, this is just my evolution. That's how I got more serious into astrophotography. Here I am in San Diego, and I do have I kind of settled down with a place with a backyard, and I leave my equipment out there semi-permanently. And this is where I got really into Voyager, and I use Voyager kind of exclusively right now to automate my imaging session in my backyard, and I think it's really a good automation solution here. Let me see. And recently, we moved into Darkside, New Mexico, and that's how the story starts there with the Voyager controlling the dual scope. This is just about me. I have well, moving next is the automation part of astrophotography. This is just a kind of a general information, and I think everyone is kind of exposed to this. For astrophotography, we always talk about different, the combination of different equipments, including stuff listed on the left, and maybe many more. It's not limited to this. And out of this stuff, we're looking for a combination of functions, including, for example, go-to, place solving, guiding, focusing, and meridian flip, sequencing, auto recovery. And a lot more that I'm not included here. My point is that those are the things we're trying to achieve in automation, so we can go to sleep and let the scope does its job. And right now, to my knowledge, and there are a few other options, but I think some of the popular options in this automation includes things listed out here, and I just want to introduce a new player. It's not essentially new software, but kind of a little bit newcomer to the market, especially on this side of the pond, I guess, which is Voyager. It's just pretty neat. I think all of those more or less can do the controlling of all of these guys and can achieve most of the tasks I list out here. So this presentation is not really a comparison, pros and cons among different options, but I do want to talk a little bit of why I like Voyager particularly, and that's how I'm gonna structure the presentation next. I guess if there's is there any questions or comments before I move on to Voyager specifically? I guess not much, because we're just about to open the show here.
Will you be making this slideshow available later?
Yeah, I can share, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Voyager. So this is a software made in Italy by a guy called Leo. Usually we go with that. I think he's a pretty well-renowned astrophotographer. He has several APODs and a good reputation in the circle. So it's nice to know that software is made by a good photographer, so he knows what's needed. And I think this is a good start. There's a link of this software. A little bit of general information about that is it's currently, to my knowledge, only Windows-based. And based on my experience and my exposure, I think it's very well geared towards fully unattended imaging session. So it does have a lot of consideration about like automation and crash prevention, this and that. So it's really, the aim is that you create your plan, you hit a button, and then you go to sleep and you come back next day That's really, to me, the goal of this software when I see how it's developed. There's some pricing information. It's kind of a similar subscription model that you pay once for a couple of licenses, and then you can renew for continuous support and update, or you can try to jump out of it and just use your current version forever. And there's another mode called Array, or Voyager Array, that's specifically developed and designed for controlling multiple nodes or multiple scopes with a single drive. And you can, currently I think it supports up to 4 nodes. There's a different pricings for that, but that's the general idea. So I think as advised here, a good sales point is that Voyager has a pretty good compatibility and extendability with different modules or different components. It lists out a few features or functions that it can achieve, like controlling the camera's mount, for, of course, and different extendability towards SkyX, Focus Max, Pinpoint Place Off too. Some of them are usually pretty widely used by us, I believe. And this is what it supports and talks to, and this is some of the key features defined by Leo, and just how good his software is. In the next few slides, I'm going to talk a little bit about each module, not each module, some of the modules here that I do think worth highlighting on. But this is the overall compatibility goals of the Voyager. I have a quick table. I actually borrowed this from another session in the Astro imaging channel, that's to show the compatibility of this program, what it talks to, and different components. Because on the camera side, of course, it supports the normal ASCOM, any camera with the ASCOM driver. A little bit good side on this is that it also has support over some of the native drivers for example, QSI, ASI, and QHY cameras. And on top of that, Voyager does work pretty closely with SkyX, so it can call the camera add-on module in the SkyX to control your camera if any of those doesn't work for you. For example, SBIG. Similarly, it can call maximum DL to control your camera. So if you used to MDL control on your camera, you can still play with that in that same idea. So on the mount side, of course, there's some ASCOM driver compatibility. On top of that, similar to the camera, you can also use SkyX to control and slew your mount, or Sky6. On the guiding side, it also support call out of the SkyX, apart from the PhD guiding, of course. It also call out SkyX MDL for your guiding. So there are this is some of the ideas that on top of the typical ASCOM supporting, you can actually interact with other main programs of your interest. And Voyager will basically serve as an integrator and call those programs to do a part of the control job. And this is what I found is pretty interesting. SkyX usually does require planetary in action. So if you don't have SkyX or Sky6, you can download CDC. I believe it's free, and it's also a pretty popular option for this category. And for play solving, as you know, we have, in my opinion, the majority mainstream of play solver is supported by Voyager as well. So there's no gaps or no problems on that front. Although focusing is something actually well worth discussing and introducing. apart from some mainstream autofocusing routine such as Focus Max and add focus 2 and add focus 3 via SkyX, Voyager actually has its own built-in autofocusing routine, which is called Roboclip, that we're going to talk a little bit more in detail in the next, which is pretty nice. It focuses very fast, easy to use, and so far is mostly robust for us, and I really like it. I think this is a good feature. Focuser is talked via ASCOM, and it supports different flat device if you have an ASCOM driver or a different type of native driver. I haven't tried a lot myself, but I know those options are available in the drop-down menu. Same as Dome, I don't have one. I don't control one, but I know you can talk to your Dome or roof via different communications and other things. And I know there's a Viking in a cart interface. I think this is also a big selling point by Voyager, that you can use this to talk about different hardwares you have in your structure. I haven't used it, but I understand there's a pretty extensive supportings on that front. Maybe it's a good thing if you guys have any of those hardwares. Any questions on the compatibility or just different components or modules you talk to? Yes. Moving on. Ooh.
Sorry, I just muted someone. Has some background noise.
Yeah. So generally, as I mentioned earlier, Voyager may be similar to other automation integrators, does most of the job of controlling things. And I want to specifically talk a little bit about these couple of things that I find very interesting or pretty neat or not available on other options as I'm aware of. So my plan is to go over these couple of things. And for each of them, I will have a quick description of what they are, and I will try to demo a little bit if I can, even offline, just to show the concept of what we're talking about. So the first thing I want to touch upon is the web dashboard. So this is a neat web interface that you can use to talk to your Voyager main program on your control computer. And you can do a lot of this via this web dashboard. The good thing I think is, of course, you can have direct access and you don't need to start up a remote desktop program if that you need it for other options perhaps. And you can actually open this guy in any of the web page interface, such as smartphone or iPad or whatever. It's pretty nice that you can lay down and just check the status over your phone, which is pretty cool. Also, you can do that on RDP, of course, I understand, but it's not a bad option to have it here. You can view most of the system status, and you can also send some simple commands. It's actually not that simple. You can do quite a lot via the web interface. And also, one thing to highlight on is that it has a virtual field of view section, which is pretty neat and is used for framing and creating mosaic grids, and also managing your target list, etc. So this is pretty good. I want to switch out and just to show what I'm talking about. Did I stop sharing already?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'll do that again. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
So this is the web dashboard I'm talking about, and it does include a different modules like the connected items, your mount status, and a virtual field of view. Actually, on the left, there's a list of the components that is included in the web dashboard. And if you just scroll up and down, it kind of breaks down into different sections, and you can rearrange all of this, and it does show you what you have in real time. I realize it's maybe I can describe without connecting to all the other machines, all the equipments for now. But basically, a lot of things you can just control, like mount command, park and unpark, or you can. I'll come back to the virtual FOV a little bit. You can choose your camera. Once it's connected, you can choose your camera and different filter and start a quick shot. And all the image that you took will have a real-time view in here, and you can preview that, and you can expand it into, I think, 100% zoom in the real-time viewer here, which is pretty nice, although I don't have it connected. Later on, once we go through the material, and if anyone is interested, we can try to demonstrate this part. Here we have the sequencer status. And here you can have a little bit of the focuser control, like steps in, steps out, go to an absolute condition position, or you can issue an auto-focusing command right here to do the auto-focusing. And on the bottom side, you can have your rotator control if you have a rotator connected, and you can actually call out your preset sequence or your preset drag script, which we'll talk a little bit later. So basically, the sequence means you set up a target and you create a sequence, ask them to expose different filters in different number of frames, different exposure lengths, this and that. And drag script is a neat interface that allows you to customize your imaging flow and pile multi-target or multi-sequence together as your whole night imaging plan. So once you create those in each individual components, you can go here and get a list of things, and you can just call out and you can start. So essentially, you can start your whole night imaging plan via your smartphone, for example, and that's pretty neat. One thing I do want to touch upon is this virtual field of view. So basically, this is not super special, but you can just search for a target, and you can frame as you wish, and you can do a mosaic as you wish, of course, and you can overlap. You can change your overlapping in this way. This is basically a framing tool, if you will. And on the mosaic side, you can choose, you probably don't see it here, but if you want the outcome to be a perfect square, rectangular, you have to adjust the orientation or angle for each panel a little bit, and the Voyager actually takes care of that for you, so that each panel will have a different, slightly different angle if you choose this mode when you create your mosaic. So this is in here. You can also select a target, frame that in a way, and hit this precise go to, and it will just slew your mount to this particular framing and do a play solving and iteratively correct your pointing until it hits the exact framing here. So so this is on the framing side, and once you we can talk about that later when we move to the Roboclip discussion. And you can have a different field of view that preset here. For example, I can have a different FOV with my other equipment in here, and I can switch back and forth as long as those combination of equipment is saved in Voyager as a profile before. You can adjust the lens, the lightness, which is useful if you're searching for some darker object. But this is pretty neat to me, and track script is running. Okay, I guess some of them teammates is starting this. Is it? Oh, I guess so. They're starting a sequence right here. I don't know, any questions about the web dashboard? I found it useful. I don't know if you want to know a little bit more on any of this.
So the web dashboard is the only graphical user interface into the software, right?
It's not actually. That's a good question, and apologize if I'm not clear. So this is actually, so now I remote into my remote desktop, and this is actually the main user interface you will find on your computer. So there are a bit of a learning curve. I'll just get used to this this mode. But this is actually the place that you can do your controlling of settings on the actual computer of controlling. The web dashboard is actually an interface on your local. Talk to this computer, talk to this program, and do some commands remotely. So I'll stop this. Some probably connection issues, but anyway, this is the first thing I want to introduce at least. It's a good, convenient way to get access to your program and make some adjustment or control.
I have a question about the web interface.
Yeah.
Obviously it would run on the machine that's the computer that's running your telescope. How does it expose itself so that you can access it over the internet? Is it like you have to open a port, or are they sending your things through a cloud connection? How does that happen?
I'm not an expert on this, but for now it's mainly talked via the IP address and port. So if you're on the local, for example, if I am on this machine, I can just open that, and if I don't put anything in, leave it blank, then I have local access to my computer. But for example, right now I'm opening this on my home computer, and I have to access to this this via my remote computer's IP address for now. So Voyager is working on building up a logging system so that the connection is more secure and robust. For now, it's mainly talking via IP address and domain name and port. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's good to start a little bit on introducing the main program. That's my bad that I didn't come to here. But basically, this is the main control window, and so the layout is like this: that you have a startup section which lists out all the equipment you selected, and you have a setup section where you basically just set up your things. And this is probably usual and typical for you guys if you use different software. But basically, in each of these, you just specify what you need. There's nothing too fancy about that. On the right, we do have a. Let me get this thing connected, and I apologize. I should probably do this earlier. But I think we can still do this right now. So we have, so in here, once you set everything up in your setup, it will show up in the startup. And supposedly I should be able to just click this connect, and everything will just connect it accordingly if everything works fine. So it's, most of the components here are necessary. For example, camera, mount, guiding, and planetarium, solver, focuser, this and that. You have to specify and set up everything in your setup tab, and then it should be all connected here if it's all green. And on the right, you will see a status column and a command column. But basically, as you can see, we have different modules here. You have an overall condition where your mount is pointing at, what's everything is doing right now. And you have your camera coolant behavior. You will have guiding if you start guiding. You will have a target information like the altitude view in terms of time. And you will have conditions, observation conditions if you set it up. On the command side, this is how you issue some commands here. You can stop and start the tracking. You can cooling it down. You can move your focuser to some locations, this and that. This is kind of a general layout if you got first exposed to this software. The next thing is this thing called on the fly. And this is where you do some simple actions, like one-time actions, like you want to have a single camera shot. So the way this is laid out is that every button, if you have this thing on the left, it means you can do some configuration of that, and you can specify like how you want to take a test shot, for example, this and that, and you can search for a certain target, like M31. You can do a fast find. It will tell you what it thinks the coordinate is, or you can do a little bit more object finder, and it will tell you this view that's typical to tell you where it is in terms of horizon. And Roboclip will touch upon that later. And then you can do a go to, so the mount will just slew to this, or you can do precise pointing and something like that. And this is how you can issue a focusing command right in here where you have your configuration set. For example, if I want focusing on the lume, on the luminance filter, I can just configure that and hit one of these options of focusing. As I mentioned, there are different options for auto-focusing routine. But this is how you issue, configure, and issue a quick command, if you will. And this is in the on the fly section. On top of that, you can specify some of the sequence. And this is just the sequence configuration window, but those are maybe similar to other software. I don't need to go into details of how you set things up. There are a lot of constraints you can set when you want to organize your imaging. For example, for this particular sequence, I can ask it to exit the sequence if the target is below a certain altitude, above a certain altitude, or you constrain via hour angle, or you constrain via the azimuth. So this helps me a little bit if I shoot at home, I have a block on a certain direction, a certain west part of the sky is blocked, so I can configure this so that it will stop and start as I wish. But this is kind of a general layout and general configuration of a simple sequence here. Does this make sense so far? And do we have any questions on the main program and user interface?
No, it's very, very good. I think so is in the sequence. I mean, I'm familiar with Sequence Generator Pro, and so when you start a sequence, it typically will do a focus, and then it'll do a plate solve for your target, and then it'll start the sequence. Does this work the same way, or do you have to do all those things?
You can definitely configure however you want. If you toggle this, it will do a centering first. If you don't, it doesn't. And if you toggle this, it will do initial focus. And if you don't, it doesn't focus.
Okay.
There's some flexibility in on how do you want to control your stuff, and it's kind of built into. So what you mentioned is mostly target on start, and those are the options. But there are different ways of arranging throughout the imaging, like when do you want to focus, by time, by number of frames, by temperature, by altitude, and use what filter. For example, how do you want to guide? Do you want to guide or not? You toggle it here. If it's unchecked, you don't guide. Do you want to dither? You can actually dither without guiding, so unguided dithering is supported here. And how, what's the maximum value of your dithering in terms of pixels, and how often you want to dither, and how often you want to focus, this and that. So it's all set up in your sequence configuration.
So you can also invoke a plate solve at any time?
You can, are you thinking about plate solving several times throughout the sequence?
Well, if you got, let's say you have a long session of imaging and you're not using a guide camera.
Yes.
And sometimes you might drift a little bit.
Yep.
You want to get back on target.
Yep. So this is what you're talking about. So there's an option of realign to target every whatever minutes, and this Leo commented this is dedicated to unguided exposure. Exactly your use case, I guess.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Does this support D points?
No. But if you configure your mount to be controlled via SkyX, then you talk to SkyX every time, and you will have T-point enabled for your pointing, right? And if you have a paramount mount, then if you enable ProTrack, whatever. So this is integrator. So if you allow SkyX to control your mount, then everything SkyX does will be taken into consideration.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
And for your cameras, you can use the native drivers.
Yes, we can. I kind of want to let me start another one. This is our. I'll talk about that later. Oh, this is also connected. I'll disconnect it right now. So yeah, so here's the list, and I basically copied this to my previous slides, but you do have native support for ASI, which is what we're using. We do have native support for QSI, which is what I use at home. So yeah, some of the native drivers are supported here.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty versatile and pretty high extendability, I think. Compatibility wise, it's pretty good. So this is the overall structure of the program. If we don't have questions on this view, I will go back to my slides and talk about other highlights. I should have probably talked about this first, but this is it. Okay. So web dashboard, just to quickly flash on that, right now, since everything is connected, we should be able to have some controlling over here, and this becomes viable, meaning if you have this and I hit this, it will just go to M31 immediately if everything works fine. And you can change your coolant like here, and you can issue auto-focusing that we can probably demo after that when we got to that section. But this is ideal. We have some error message, but it's all right. Okay, where are we? Next thing is Roboclip. It's kind of maybe related with the web dashboard, but this is basically a target management system built into Voyager program. It basically stores all the target that you created by framing in the web dashboard, and it's stored in the way that you can easy to load and edit the existing target if you want to make some change, or if you want to revisit this particular framing next year or so. And it does support some grouping, labeling, and commenting, and it's really convenient for us. For example, we have a team of 4, and each of us creating their own target, and you can definitely do a quick sorting and searching via this. So the way to do that, you can access, you do have access to that via here. If you click in the searching region, if you click Roboclip, it lists all the created targets, their coordinates, their angle, and whatever your comments and notes here. And you do call this out in your sequence. So here, if I want to change to another, some guys imaging Polaris, okay, that's good. Okay, if we call this out, you will have the corresponding coordinate loaded in and the angle, which is pretty neat. This is how you load it. Usually we create it in here. For example, I have whatever a different framing I want to achieve today, and I do it like this. And once your system is connected, you click Roboclip. It loads everything up. That's everything you have. And if I want to save the current framing, you click this Get Data from Virtual FOV. It loads your angle and your coordinate here. You can type in whatever things here. You can select it to whatever group you have, and you just hit save. Now it saves into here. And the next time, if you want to load it, let's say if I move it out, and this time I want to revisit my framing, I just load it and it come up again. And you can also edit a little bit whatever you want, or delete this thing. I think it's a good feature that you keep your target organized in the way. Oh, and of course you can sort it by RA, which is the way that you can tell that I imaged this first, and then I imaged this, and then I imaged this throughout the year. Or you can sort it in different ways. And you can also search for a particular group. If this is just my stuff, then this is filtered for only my target. Make sense so far? Any questions on this? Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Another thing I really like is the RoboFire, or the automated autofocusing routine. As I mentioned, in the autofocus, you do have several options, like someone like Focus Max, and I know one of the guys, Drew, really like the SkyX, which is pretty neat. You can call those out as your main focusing routine. Otherwise, you can use RoboFire, which is a built-in version inside the Voyager. So essentially, what it does, to my understanding, is RoboFire supports 2 different focusing mechanisms. One is a kind of a single star focusing, kind of like the the Focus Max. And basically, what it does is you do have a preset V curve that you save along, and what it does is it will go to a certain defocused location with a specified HFD, and it will visit the focuser position at that location multiple times to confirm, and then you move into what is called a near focus position, again specified by the HFD, and it's assuming that you have a linear relationship in your focuser position versus your HFD, and by iteratively confirming these 2 locations, it then extrapolate and tell you like where your focuser needs to move to for your final focused locations. So maybe a little of the description here is that, as I said, in the V curve mode, which is a single star focusing mode, you do need to establish the V curve And the information is, you only need to do this like 3 or 4 times. And the information is stored in your profile. And what's important is the slopes on the left and the right, of course, and those are stored in here. And the entire focusing is built on top of this. And once you establish this, you will specify your near focus and start focus position. And this is in terms of HFD. And this is exactly what I was talking before. So in the current configuration, the start focusing is at 20 HFD, and near focus is, we specified as 10 HFD. So when I issue auto-focusing routine, it will automatically move the focuser to somewhere here where you're at 20, take a few pictures confirming your HFD, and then you move your focuser to somewhere here. And based on these 2 points, it extrapolates your focused position. This is pretty quick actually for me. So I came from SGP, Sequence Generator Pro. For my camera, I usually need to have maybe 3 or 4 minutes for the entire focusing routine. In this method, because it only exposes for a small portion of your camera, it only loads and reads a small portion. It's pretty fast and it's pretty reliable. We are looking at about 1.5 minutes or something for my old camera to finish this routine. And another good thing about this is that because your V curve is fixed, another good thing about that is when we're doing this V curve focuser, it actually goes to search for a star with suitable magnitude, and it moves and centered on that star and do the auto-focusing I just described. And the good thing about that is that if you're focusing a narrowband filter, you can specify a brighter star so that it takes about the same amount of time to complete this auto-focusing routine. Whereas in other programs that I used to have, usually I have to extend the exposure per frame time to complete a focus. So this is the V curve or single star auto-focusing idea. And this is honestly what I would recommend and what I've been using mostly for auto-focusing. It does support another auto-focusing routine called local field, but this is essentially the same as the full frame auto-focusing, such as in SGP and Nina. Basically, you're exposing the entire frame. You calculate the HFD over the entire frame, and you move your focuser, and you generate that kind of a V curve. That's the idea.
How does it establish the V curve? Can you just explain that again?
That's an awesome question. And that's actually another pretty awesome thing for Voyager, is that it actually established the V curve automatically for you. And I have a video that I recorded earlier. Let me know if you can see the video. Is it possible?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. I'll moving a little bit fast until we see we are. So we select a suitable star, and then we let me see if I click this first light wizard, assuming you know nothing about your focuser, assuming Voyager knows nothing about your focuser, and you don't have to be super in focus, but as long as you're roughly in focus, you can start this first light wizard. And what it does is, after you read through the agreement, is that it automatically exposes and measure a suitable exposure length. And now you see that it starts to, so this is on the x-axis, this is the focuser position. On the y-axis is measured HFD. It starts with a very short steps, maybe 1 step, you see, and it will just automatically extend the steps to generate this V curve for you. So I will probably move a little bit fast on this, but you see it's incrementally increase the steps of this first light wizard. And you probably get the idea that as long as you later you will increase to larger steps, and that's how you form a V curve.
Okay. Will it also do like an automatic temperature compensation on focus where it doesn't have to refocus entirely? It already knows the temperature profile of your system.
So good point. To my knowledge, no,
Okay.
because the guy who made this software really dislikes temperature compensation. And he's an interesting guy, and I like him, but he's interesting. So I think yeah. So his advice is that you use this to focus in a minute instead of trusting the temperature.
Okay.
But that's
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you see right now, it generates incrementally steps and create on the left side of the curve, and then it automatically goes to the other side of the curve, and it starts to exposure from that side. I think my video was I don't know. Did I lost you guys or?
We're still here.
Okay.
Or trying to keep up, one of the two.
Yeah, but anyway, this is a neat feature that you can have Voyager to generate this V curve for you, and then you add another 1 or 2, so you have 3 curves, so you know your profile of the focuser, and then from there you can just start your auto focusing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions on the focusing or anything I missed? If my teammates wants to chime in or add anything.
No, you're doing well.
Sweet. Okay. Another thing I found interesting is that, of course, you can specify different exposure lengths for your different filters. Sometimes we've run into the issue that the selected stars are like double star or whatever. So you can, if you find that case, you can add that star you don't like into the wrong star database, so it won't visit that anymore, which is just a small useful tool. All in all, pretty nice, super fast, reliable focusing routine, which is a big selling point for me to switch from SGP to here. But anyway, it's not about the comparison. This is good stuff of this. So that's focusing. Another thing I just want to touch upon is the auto flat. I see the email around like what's the best flat filter generator and who use what. I've been searching for a reliable flat generator. It's not difficult to do, but I think Voyager provides a workaround, and it works pretty well. So Voyager has its own auto flat section, which is similar to your sequence configuration, but here is dedicated for flat data acquisition. So here you do have full automated flat frame acquisition. I believe it will definitely. So okay, so here you select your filter and you tell it the minimum and maximum exposure you want it to have. You don't want it too short, of course, and you give it an initial guess, and you tell it what's your target ADU, and for a 16-bit camera, you're looking something around 30,000 or whatever. Once you specify all of this, you just click OK and start, and it will automatically adjust the exposure so that you are meeting your requirements. So literally, you can just hit a button and let it finish. On top of that, what I really like is there's a function called sky flat. You can take flat just with the sky, either during dusk or dawn. And if you're selecting this mode, you can have the telescope auto slew to a certain pointing direction that Voyager thinks suitable, or you can specify your own if you have some block in the sky. And the Voyager will just slew to there and exposure, and make an exposure and calculate the exposure length. And after the first one, when it moves to the second frame or third frame, because the sky is getting darker during the dusk, it will automatically calculate the next the exposure length for the next frame, and usually it's pretty accurate, so that you will always have your targeted ADU achieved. And you can have it start dithering, so later you don't have to deal with all the star trails and the stars. It will be rejected, pretty reliable in your stacking and rejecting. So it's nice. You actually don't need any flat panel. You can just run a sky dusk and a sky dawn in the evening and morning for, if you wish, for your overnight session. Any questions on this? Okay. So we talk about different features here, and how do we combine it all together into a compiled imaging session then. In Voyager, we do that via an interface called drag scripts. This is a sample of what we have recently. It looks a little bit intimidating or complicated, but the concept behind that is still pretty straightforward, and I think it's good because it does offer flexibility to customize your imaging flow. So there are a lot of components on the right that you can essentially move and pile up to the left, which is your main imaging flow. And the idea is drag script is that you drag a different components into whatever location to form your logic of imaging flow for that night. And for example, in this sample, we wait for a certain time to start connecting things and cool down the camera and unparking and whatever. And then at another time, I start asking to go to the zenith and start an initial autofocusing. And if it failed, I have another backup plan or whatever maybe on that. And then I start wait. I ask the mount to stop and start wait. And until I have my target above a certain altitude, that I will start imaging this. And until another constraint of this particular target, I move on to my sequence 2, 3, 4, whatever. And at the end, of course, I park and I warm up the camera and this and that. I know in other software programs, this is probably more compact design that you can just specify what you want to achieve. There's good and bad on this. I know it's a little bit more complicated. You don't have to change this all the time. Actually, for us, we basically just change a little bit when we want to change the target. But this does offer a pretty high flexibility on how you want to arrange things and how you want to pile up stuff in different orders or sequence or different logics, etc.
So if I have I've got a dome that I have to control. So then with this, would I be able to say at the end of the session at night, while I'm sound asleep, I can have it automatically park the dome and close the slot?
So I certainly believe so. On the dome, you have different components that you want to use, and I suppose park dome is what you want to know. As long as you pile it in the location that you see fit, it should get it going.
And that should work even if it's working through SkyX.
SkyX dome is supported. I know that.
Okay.
I have never integrated into this though, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall, this is just achieving some how you want your stuff to happen. I personally see a lot of higher flexibility here, just because you can pile things different way. Last thing I want to touch upon is the array, which is pretty pretty good for us because we have, as you see, two scopes on a single mount. And this is how the array comes into play. So basically, as long as you have individual parts set up as normal as the individual systems, you can use array to link those together and control those together in a way that it supports the sync exposure, the synced dithering, the synced autofocus, synced meridian flip, if you will. But basically, that allows you to operate two systems kind of effectively and efficiently in a way. In the array set points, apart from the individual cases, you can specify, for example, in a sequence, how do you want your each exposure to happen? For example, you can specify in your master sequence, how do you want the different image to be taken, or you can specify on your slave systems, how do you want each frame to be taken. For example, usually I took luminescence in my long focal length systems, and I took RGB just to provide a color for my details required in there. And you can specify your temperature and those are things, and you can specify your dithering. And for example, in here we're saying once your long focal length system, I want to dither every 4 frame of that, and this will be the dominating systems, and the other system will just wait for the dithering to happen if the time works on that. And the same is on the focusing. This is just a little bit of coordination of multiple imaging systems you have, and that can be achieved in here. I think, yeah, is there a question or something? No? Okay. It's I think description is not making a lot of sense out of it. But this is what we really like about that. Those are the things I really like about these programs. There are some good things I like. For example, this guy Leo, he doesn't sleep. Like usually he responds any of the emails or comments in a couple hours, and I think he's pretty passionate with his product, and he's good at supporting. I do mention this works for me very well, that I have blockage in the sky, in the visibilities. I do like the extendability to SkyX. I have been using SkyX quite a long time, and some of the feature like imaging link, the place solver, which is very good for me. There's some other good stuffs. Personally, I do find some other other things that I really like to see improving, or at least I have been using those features in other programs. For example, if you come from SGP, you know that you can change things on the fly, adding or subtracting a frame or so. That's not possible with Voyager for now. It doesn't remember where you are if you stop it. So next time you stop, you kind of start from the beginning. I do think that's also the sequence memory thing. I do think that's in the plan, but I don't want to commit on anything of that. I do think he's considering adding this feature in. If you want to change a lot of things in other programs, it's probably easier to add or remove a target. In here, you do need to change a little bit of things, especially if you have a complicated logic built in your drag script. It's not a tremendous amount of work though. So far I've been happy of just changing a little bit of the constraint if I want things to happen differently. I put it here. Some people say there's a steeper learning curve. It's not that bad, and right now I'm exposed to this enough, and I find it's still also pretty intuitive, if you will. A small thing is that in SGP there's a frame and focus. You just hit and it keep looping it for you. In here, it's not as straightforward. This is good for example, if you're doing a polar alignment or focusing manually. You can create a drag script, a simple one, just ask it to loop, repeat a single exposure. But well, this is probably a little stretchy here. This is not the best. It will be really nice if we have that feature. There might be some other things that if you come from another program and if you want to try this, you find it inconvenient of missing a certain feature or not. But so far, overall, I think this is a pretty positive program, and I've been using it. I have been liking it quite a lot, and I personally highly recommend it for you guys to give it a try. I want to get everything connected and maybe start my body's sequence, and we can visualize the steps. Well, if you have other questions, feel free to throw it out, and I'll try to explain and answer a little bit. Am I going too slow, too fast, whatever comments you may have?
Is there a way, I have a question. Is there a way for you to set it programmatically to give up on a night if it hazes over or something like that?
So we do have, for example, in each of the sequences, if there's any error, for example, guiding lost or whatever, here we're going a little bit extreme. We ask them to stop tracking and wait for 30 seconds and go back to this until I'm out of the constraint. So this guy will just continually trying here until it's time to move on. If you're talking about to let it give up, you can if there's an error occurred, you can set a different logic. For example, you want to repeat this block for 10 times, and if it's still not okay, you can jump to a block called wrap up, and then you're giving up.
Right. You could. Okay.
Yeah,
Park
and
it,
actually you can do
close the dome or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. It's all built in here, and you can, and even you can, for example, after you park, say if you park at 1 a.m. and you think you may still have a chance by 3 a.m. You can have a logic built in. For example, you can specify, okay, if it's still before 3 a.m., you can ask them to try it again, right? You can start from the beginning and try it again. So there's flexibility of playing here. I'm pretty sure most of the logics we want to do can be achieved from here. It's just a matter of time of finding the right combination and try and error. Yeah. So I will try to call this thing out so that we can visualize a little bit on the progress, and very likely it may fail, perhaps.
Do you have any control over the format of the image file name?
Good question. You mean the frame name?
Well, yeah. So that would include like maybe the target, whether it's a light frame and exposure duration, so on and so forth.
Yes, you do. In the latest version, I don't have it on here, but in the latest version is basically similar to SGP and Nina, that you can specify what information you want to include in the file name.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you're ready to start, you load your drag script. It will just go from top to bottom and search for the condition that's about to start. Okay. So in this sequence, now it's at this sequence, and in this sequence, we ask the angle to be, if you have a rotator, we ask the angle to be a certain angle, and it's rotating, and it's gonna take forever. It's not Voyager's fault, so. But anyway, after the rotating is completed, it will go to, it will slew to your target and do initial focusing, slew back, start guiding, and just start taking out the exposures like this. We'll see how it goes, but this is the time. Also, if you have more comments or questions, I can try to help.
So is a sequence always done through a custom drag script, or are there any sort of like templates or standardized?
Yes. There are templates. That's what I showed earlier, that you can just create a sequence with a single target and run it. And the way is, instead of calling a drag script, you can, if you have anything, call a sequence directly and run it here, or run it in the main program, and that will just run that particular sequence, a particular target itself.
Okay, and then one of the things I don't like about Sequence Generator Pro, which is what I use, is that everything is defined at the sequence level, and I would like to be able to think about it in terms of the target. And so maybe tonight I'll do M31, and the next day I want to do M15 or some other object, and I want to be able to change that around and be able to maybe have the same script but move things in and out. This looks like that's what you can do with the drag script.
I think so, exactly. Yeah, so that's how. So I see your point that in SGP every target is an individual sequence, and you want to know how you arrange them together, right? That's your point.
Yeah, and
so in here, yes, you can definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you how you want to arrange different sequence.
Will it essentially keep some memory with respect to where you are in capturing that target? In other words, if you've done all the looms, and it will, when you move the target back in the script, does it have any knowledge that you've done all of your red filters and now you're ready to move on to green, or is that something you have to keep track of?
Right. It doesn't have the. It does not have the sequence of that.
Okay.
For now. So I also want that. If you remember where you stop and next day you pick it up, that'll be awesome. For now it doesn't. The way I have been using is I cycle my LRGB filters in this way. So I do it in short intervals, and I pick this up next day. So you kind of still have a more or less evenly distributed frame, if you will, at the end. You don't lose much. The good thing is I do ask them to focus on every filter change, but it's faster. So it's not really a big loss of time if you do this way. Okay. But for now, it doesn't remember where you stopped. Yeah.
All right.
So one of the guys is already rotated okay, the other guy is still rotating. This takes time. It's kind of the main body that I want to present today. I don't know if you want to wait for this thing to happen, or you have other things you want brought up.
What kind of rotators are you using that are so slow?
It's so slow. We have Moonlight Nightcrawler on both. It's slow, but it's super accurate. I think usually we're at like double-digit positions, which is pretty impressive. I never had a rotator. My buddies, they had a rotator. It's pretty nice.
Okay.
Yeah, once you have one, you never live without it. So I assume you can set up different profiles depending upon what configuration of equipment you want to use for a particular imaging session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it does have a profile. The profile is this is my home backyard setup. So you basically set everything up in here, and you save it into a certain profile, and you can definitely load it with different one. And here it tells you what profile you have. You can have different combinations, different scopes, or whatever.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. Start slewing. The profile, the program itself doesn't have a built-in viewer of the image, but it does have a fits viewer, which is a separate program that you can actually load any kind of the fits in here. And if you use it together with Voyager, it will automatically load whatever you just exposed. But the same is in here, that it's exposing. It's already auto. It will load the latest images right in here, and you can actually click it and zoom in and magnify it to, I believe, 100%, which is pretty nice. You can see my screen of viewing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this guy is now doing auto focusing, I believe, but it is slewing to suitable stars, and it start auto focusing. As you see, it get an initial focuser, and then it moved out to a certain location he thinks where it should be at 20 in terms of HFD. So now it's at 20, and it starts like 3 or 4 exposures. I know this focusing position is at 20, so it moved to 10. If you recall, 10 is what we call the near focus, and it keep exposing a few more times on that spot, and now it moved to the final focus location, which is, this is already focused. So focusing is done. To me, that's pretty quick, and I believe my other machine is also finishing up. So I have a different definition of near focus, but the end it converge into the focus condition. So focusing is all done for my both systems already.
And did it pick the star for you, or did you have to designate what star?
Oh, it picks the star for me. So
Wow.
yeah, so depending on the magnitude is specified, it automatically search for the nearest stars, and it slew over.
That's a lot faster than Sigma Generator Pro.
Yes.
Yeah, this is pretty neat.
Yeah, that looks a lot like the newer versions of Focus Max look a lot like that.
Right. Yes. Yes. If you really like it, you can call Focus Max here if you want to use that as your main focus in routine. But this has been pretty awesome to us.
Well,
so now you start guiding.
I was going to say you could buy this program for what Focus Max costs. So
yeah. The guiding started, and it will check the temperature. We ask both to be -20, and it will just start taking care of these guys. Both guys started. You can run both systems on a single PC. For us, we kind of play it cautious to have it on both sides. If you only have one PC, you can start a multi-instance of Voyager, so you can have 2 sets of Voyager running. And if you have an array like this, you can have one PC to control both setups. So this is our, so maybe let's just wait a little bit, 3 minutes. We should be having the first sets of images come up, and that probably concludes the demo here. I'm happy that nothing went wrong so far. Sometimes it does. You do get some errors or this and that. Tonight seems pretty smooth.
So I've read about this program and considered buying it earlier. My understanding is that the author of the software actually does a lot of programming for financial institutions and banks, and that's where he got the orientation towards high availability, high reliability. Have you seen it play out? Has it been reliable, or does it ever crash, or you have problems with it?
So personally, I think for my home, so once it started, it's pretty robust. I personally have never got the need to restart or whatever in my home computers. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't want to speak for the software. We do notice that if I have to, for example, abort the sequence and make a lot of changes overnight, after a few abortings, we might have a crash on program. And usually if I restart it, it runs fine. So my takeaway, our strategy is that for the array controlling, and especially we're using two 6200 cameras, which seems pretty intensive. We typically restart the Voyager in the beginning of starting the sequence before night, and usually it runs overnight without a problem. There's something I cannot explain, but I just don't want to abort and make changes a lot. If I don't do that, I find it robust.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I move to the next. I don't know what's the focusing mechanism we choose of dithering. But anyway, it's just a coordinating between two systems. If I ask dithering after 2 frames and this guy finished slightly earlier, it will wait for this guy to dither together and then start exposing afterwards. Huh. Usually it does load faster than this. I don't know, but this will work. Okay. What is this? What is this? But anyway, this is the stuff we are talking about. But anyway, you see we have a zoom in version and zoom out version, which is pretty good in terms of efficiency. I cropped this out, so I don't care. Any questions?
With your array setup, I'm assuming that the two computers are talking to each other over the network. There's not like a required hard connection between the two to coordinate.
It's through the network, yes, local network. There's no hardware. No. Yeah, overall, I think these guys really, I'm sold on this. I really like this. I wish we have the sequence memory. That's really a thing that I wish we have. But I survived without that for now, and I'm still happy with that.
Do you know if that's something he's working on, or you don't know?
Yeah, he's working on that. So they have a forum. Oops. They have a forum here, and I encourage you to visit this. I believe they have they have sequence memory in the development, but there's just no commitment timings. But feel free to visit this and see what you find interesting.
All right.
Well, we'll say I took a look at this earlier in the year, and I kind of passed on it because there was a lot of capabilities that I was looking for that just weren't there. But from what you're showing, it looks like they've got them in there, a lot of them. So
It's definitely evolving fast. Yeah, this guy, I think he has different versions of beta versions out pretty frequently. Yes, yeah, and we did ask a few features or functions in, and he basically usually addressed that for us in a few weeks, if not few days, which is pretty quick turnaround if you have comments.
Is he the only developer, or does he have anybody helping him?
I know two guys. There's another guy, Francesco, who worked a lot on the web dashboard. To my knowledge, it's still kind of a small group.
So if he gets hit by a bus, then the whole program doesn't end, it sounds like.
Don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah. Yeah. So far, it's
that's just about common for any of these tools like this, right? With a small niche market, it's one or two people actually doing the work.
Yeah, I think it's like that for everything, like focusers and.
Yeah, so I mean.
Yeah.
Well, at least I think this guy is open to ideas and wants to make improvements, and which I can't say that for the SGP people. They are very closed-minded people.
Yeah.
Also, I was wondering what happened to SGP right now. Actually, it says it's going to push out 4.0, and where it stands right now.
The beta 4.0 is out.
It's out, but there is actually like a lot of new features. Because one of the main reasons actually I decided to follow Yizhou and switch over to Voyager. It's mainly for the dual scope setup. Like we need to have actually like fully synchronized flow, not only actually just dithering, and we need to actually like a synchronized focusing and dither, and also like the flip, and everything actually has to be like automatic. And we did a research actually on SGP. SGP says in 4.0 it will start to support this, but I didn't wait that long. And Nina has the synchronous dither, but it does not have the whole flow control. So for the dual scope setup, I think the Voyager array system is the only option.
Yeah.
Well, and then the other thing is that SGP with version 4 is going to a 64-bit too, which I think is going to be have a lot of problems with, because you're going to have to change out drivers.
One thing about the SGP, and I exit SGP, is that because of this new camera, this is ASI 6200. It does not support native driver in the SGP. You can only use Astro, and it gives you a whole lot of actually downloading issue, and sometimes you just pause. And the one actually with native driver like Nina and Voyager, we barely see any problem at all. So this has got to be the implementation issue of SGP.
Well, that was probably one of my biggest reasons for starting to look for something other than SGP when they stopped doing the native ZWO support.
Right. I think it stopped it a long time ago, right?
Yeah, they did, yes. Mainly because they didn't want to have to put up with all the changes that all the manufacturers were making. So they just sloughed the problem off to ASCOM.
Yeah. All right, great meeting you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope actually one day actually that, and especially then actually I can meet you on site.
Yeah, I hope so.
Thanks much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sequence Generator Pro 4 is in beta right now still.
Oh, and also its pricing model is changed to similar like a Voyager, right? It's not just one-time payment, and you have to pay subscription to get upgrades, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't mind paying small amount of fee to subscribe if it helps them to develop stuff. And I think right now there's competition, which might be good to drive them a little bit. It's also nice for us to have alternatives nowadays with what's on the market, I think.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
Hey, back in the old days, you had shareware, which was free. And then you also had a version that was pretty much 100%, but if you made a donation, you got 100%. What was that called? Was it freeware, shareware, or what was the?
Yeah, it was
Shareware.
Yeah, shareware.
Okay, and then of course you got the full up purchase version where you expect it to work perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I don't know. The world's kind of changed. It's, you know, being in IT for 25 years, I'm sure you guys have been in it longer. Yeah. You know, we've gone from being able to buy software and use it for years to we're more or less renting software and a lot of the stuff at work. And
that's what I mean. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
They don't like guys like me will buy Microsoft Office and use it for 7 years. They would rather get that monthly or yearly fee. The SGPs and Voyager, they aren't there yet. I mean, if you choose to pay the yearly fee, it gives you updates and the ability to talk to someone, but they haven't forced it. A lot of the business software, if you don't choose to pay the fee the next time around, you got to buy it new. So I'm happy they haven't gone that route. And the SkyX or the Software Biz guys, they've done the same thing. So I'm hoping they don't look at some other business software and get more onerous on it. But
on the rental software, well, I call it kind of rental software. If you stop the monthly payments, are you frozen at the version that you had, or does it just stop working?
You are with the astronomy software.
Well, there's two options there. Which one do we got? We're stuck with a version when we stop the payment, or it just stops working?
You're stopped with the version that you already own. You own that version, and it theoretically should work until you get a piece of equipment that it doesn't work with.
Sure. And then there are two possibilities. You can restart your subscription, or you have to upgrade to the new one at the full up price. So
right.
Price, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that hate that, but I mean, it costs money to develop software.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, $1,500 an hour or more, and you know, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
No one ever wants to take more money out of their pocket.
Right.
Especially.
Well, you know, yeah, I was that way when I didn't have money to take out of my pocket. But you know, as I progressed in my career and I made a little bit more money, I found myself doing the donation thing for these guys, because you're absolutely right. You know, I mean, we put an awful lot of time into developing something, and we just put it out there for people to use for free. You know, that's, you know, I don't mind kicking back 25 bucks or so, 100 bucks for something that was really good. I've got a program that I use to synchronize hard drives. I got that thing back in the 90s, and every year I always kick those guys back. It's still out there, still available. I kick those guys out another 50 bucks. Okay, it's been running since the 90s, you know?
I just want to say, actually, nice meeting you guys. I got to run. I got to pick up kids. Actually, coming back from San Antonio from the Texas band state competition. So actually, their bus just arrived. I got to run. Talk to you guys next time.
Yeah, it's just about 9 anyway. So.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, I heard that some of the more popular objects in the sky are going to start charging a per view fee or per image fee, like M31. I think it's $10 a night now.
Yeah. Payable to whom?
Well, Grant, you want to go ahead and go with your planetary
I
program?
think we should probably go next month. It's 9 o'clock. We got people dropping out. People need to drop out.
Okay.
Yeah, how does a dime follow a C note like this? You know? I'll start off next month, and that won't take but 15, 20 minutes. People have questions. Until then, you know, I mean, I can do something like, let me do something here real quick. Can I share the screen real fast?
Yeah, go ahead. No issues. I mean, I always have trouble finding presentations, so it doesn't bother me to go next month.
So, okay, so I don't know if you guys, is this up now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was an image that I produced using the PIP Auto Stacker Photoshop process. Okay, the 4 steps to do this. And I like this. So, but the problem was it didn't have the kind of, you know, I couldn't get the kind of detail out of it that was there. So then I took and I processed it for the prominence. So that meant the chromosphere was way overexposed. And then I reprocessed it for the chromosphere, so I didn't have the prominence. And then I had to composite the 2 to get something like that. And I see a lot of people doing that. And so that's what I had to do to get this. But when I was playing around with Astro Surface, this is what I got with the first pass. I didn't have to match anything up or composite anything. It's got a feature to do flats. I just haven't used that yet. So that's the reason why I've got some dust motes in there. But that was my first process out of the software. And then so it wound up looking like that. Let's see, let me get this out of here. So it was a big difference. I mean,
those are awesome.
It only took me about 15 minutes to do this, whereas this took 15 minutes. And then to do the composite, I had to do 15 minutes for this and then 15 minutes for that. So to get to this point took 45 minutes. That only took me about 5 or 10, well, about 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. I'm subtracting a learning curve in there, but the learning curve really wasn't all that steep either. And then I just did this today. It has an ability to process just regular image files. So I pulled this up because the thumbnail looked like it was in color. It turns out, you know, it was a little shifted. You had the red over here and the blue over there. But then they have a align color feature. And I hit the color align, and it lined everything up. And then I used a quick wavelets and a quick touch up on the color like you do in Photoshop, and I got that thing right there. And this was less than 10 minutes to do all that. So this is a pretty good little program if you guys want to give it a shot between then. The other thing I might be able to do, so that's where it is, where it starts up. You go here and you click files. You can open up
we can't see that on our end. We're only seeing the Jupyter images.
All right, so what I got to do then is go back to that probably. I minimized it, didn't I? Where am I at here? Yeah, so I guess what happens is it picks a screen that's being used by a program. So let me try that again. I can do a quick rundown on how this thing works right there. So it starts up like this, and you can open up a video file. And I'll just pull up that one with the prominence. They've got some good tutorials. The problem is they're a little bit behind the time because I'm working with a new update that I got today. And there are some buttons that aren't in the tutorials and they move some things around. But the tutorials are still okay from a generic program point of view. The hardest thing for me to figure out how to get through the tutorial was they didn't show this box that popped up. They say you open it up, you load a file, and it immediately showed this control panel. This wasn't it. And it turns out you can do one of two things. You can hit OK and get out, and it'll open up the other one, or you can just click register. Sorry, click OK. Come on. What the hell? Oh, man. What the hell? Did I use it too much today? Oh, frack. What the hell's going on here? Huh. Well, I wonder if it just doesn't work with this.
Yeah, it's acting like there's another window open somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it didn't do that. Okay. Well, that sucks. Let me try something here. Okay. I'm going to do this in here. Frack. Now it really irritates me. All right. Now let me try go back to share here. And it is that one right. Okay. Do you see this big control box here, or is that? Wow. Thanks for finding this out. Can you guys see this thing? It says target.
Yes.
Analyze register. Okay. Somehow I've got the screen sharing and stop share in the middle of this. Oh, interesting. Right. Anyway, so when you do the analyze register, it takes you to this 4-step process. And the process is you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, which is the stacking process. One of the things you have to do is you have to highlight a feature area here. And then I think you can, I don't know if this will do detect on the screen. Wow. Wow, this is not optimized for using on Zoom, is it? Sorry about that. All right, well, this kind of sucks. So you can still see this target box, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what you would do is you would come over to the main screen, which has your image, and you would do a highlight particular ROI just for it to do some detection. And you would hit detect, and it would determine a few things. And then this box would turn green, at which point you would.
I'm wondering if you shared your whole screen, maybe if it would work instead of like a window.
I'll try it. See. I didn't know I could do that. Let's see.
I think you can.
Yep.
Screen. Optimize screen sharing for video clip. Oh. Portion of screen, content of second cam. Oh, wait a minute. Portion of screen.
Guys, I have to step out. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's really nice to meet you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you too, man. That was that was a drink from a fire hose there, man.
That was very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you
very much. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So, all right. Well, maybe this is good. I don't know. It says shared screen.
Yeah, now we can see.
The background.
No, we can see the screen and we can see you moving the mouse around.
Yeah, and it's not highlighting the. It's not highlight. Yeah, so it's not really. Wow, bummer. That sucks. Okay, we'll stop sharing. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's a really simple program to use. I'll try this one last time if I can get rid of that stupid exit that. Yeah, okay. Maybe this will work. Let me come over here. Because it does have some extra interesting I shouldn't say interesting. It has a lot of features of all of these other programs. So yeah, you've got the general, open files. You can do raw files, decode files, the edit tools. You can do the copy, paste, clone, stamp, image tools or white levels, the whole gamma, color saturation. The photo, I call this the Photoshop tools. Then you got the PixInsight kind of tools where you can do the noise and the Gaussian. The wavelets, that's a function over here of the analyze register. I'm sorry, I'm missing that because I've got this drop down thing in the middle of the screen. Over here, when you're doing your analyze register, it opens up another box that has the things like deconvolution, the wavelets, a number of boosting and I think it's camera related functions, the ADR, Dan. Dan, the ADR is, what is that?
I'm not sure what that is.
I've seen it referenced before in digital imaging. So anyway, so there's just a whole lot of features on this thing that are, you know, I mean, for people like Joe and Dan and Steve and you know, Rick and Mike and Mike and Mike. It's like, it's a toy, but for folks like Dave and me, maybe Jack, Bill might get have a little use for it. It's a good tool for doing real fast evaluation of your data for sure. You know, is this worth investing 5 hours of work into, or in Rick's case, is this image worth investing a month's worth? You can figure that out in about 10, 15 minutes if you're not already.
So Graham, I took this is Dave. I took a quick poke at it with some data from Mars imaging, and I was pretty happy that it clearly would substitute for the combination of PIP plus AutoStacker all in one program. I've got this pretty serious declination error where I've got drift of the planet all through the screen, and PIP takes care of that. This program did the same just fine.
Yeah, I reran some of the stuff I did 2 years ago, and I'm like, geez, yeah, I could, as is with everything with software.
I didn't get as I got the frames registered. That looks good, but I didn't get as far as going then to doing wavelet correction. Your Jupiter picture looks like magic to me. I got to get after that. That looks really beautiful.
So that's an image that they supply. If you go down to their examples file, that's Jupiter 4.png. And like I said, this afternoon I was, getting ready for tonight. So I was kind of like, I want to kind of go through the drop downs, and I saw the box called Color Align, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And I did the Jupiter. I opened up the Jupiter and I saw the color mismatch. And then just looking at some of the other controls that came up for the raw file, I saw the color line. I clicked it and it was like, popped it right in there. I mean, I guess you guys didn't see how fast that happened.
I've got to get back to that. The other thing I liked about it, just in the few minutes I looked at, is that the controls you need to run everything are on one screen, and they're highlighted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in yellow, and super easy to navigate that.
There is one problem, and this is like, okay, so I mentioned there's like a couple of little speed bumps there, or maybe brick walls. Would seem like a brick wall. Was when you first open it up, you get the one drop down box. It doesn't say that you have to click exit to continue on with the program. It just gives you that dialogue, and then there's a few controls. And then so I kind of came to a dead stop with this thing when I first installed it, and I never got back to it for a couple of weeks. But when I did, and I realized you had to close that, then it pops up the rest of them. The main controller, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. To get out of the first box, you have to actually do a highlight of the image.
Right.
Right. And then once you do that, then all of a sudden the box number 2 turns green.
Yeah, it took me a while to find that, but maybe I'll get lucky and get Jupiter and Saturn both in frame on the 21st and throw this software at it. That'd be fun.
I'm gonna try to see if I can get a scope combination put together so I can maybe head out to a.
Yeah.
My last hurrah with astrophotography is climbing the mountain over there at the Weldon Springs toxic waste dump, so I can see that 5-degree horizon.
A warning, if I might, about this conjunction.
Yeah.
Okay. Jupiter is 2.6 magnitudes brighter than Saturn. That's about 11 times brighter, which is like 3 stops. So if you expose for Jupiter, you ain't gonna see Saturn. And if you expose for Saturn, Jupiter's gonna be a big white dot. So be prepared.
And you know why I'm doing this? You know why I'm doing this, Steve? Because that Astro surface, it got an ability to merge 2 images. So
HDR?
Yeah, that's right. They also have HDR. So there's 2 different functions. There's merge, raw, there's merge images, and then there's the HDR feature. Yeah. Part of that Jupiter thing was touched up with their HDR tool. So I haven't played around. There's two things I need to play around with. Well, the one now is the merging. So you're right. So you grab a quick couple of videos exposed for Saturn, then you grab a couple of videos exposed for Jupiter, and then you're going to have to composite the two of those on top of each other. The other thing is I see they've got a flat and a dark ability to create. I haven't explored that to figure out how to do that. Pip will import a video, a flats video, and create that for you.
I'm gonna say for the conjunction, you shouldn't have to worry about darks.
No, well, I don't know. My camera, my ZWO camera's got a lot of dust in it. So, you know, Bill Newbert and I are working on a kind of a thing to allow us to put the camera into a filtered environment, clean it up, and then bring it out all nice and, you know, the sensor all nice and non-dusty, non-dirty. But the big problem is I'm trying to use one of those. Remember the Galileo scopes they were selling for like 25 bucks? Bill, is Bill Newbert still here? Okay. It turns out what I can do with that is to make a collimated light source so that you can move your camera around and see where all the dust motes are and then dust them off. All you need to do is take a collimator, which in this case could be a Galileo scope. You put an LED up at the top, and that creates this big, wide 3-inch collimated light beam. So now you don't have to have some point source to move around. You just put your camera underneath that telescope, and you've got, no matter where you move it, you're in a collimated light, so you can see. You just put it underneath there, you can see the whole sensor and all of the dust motes, and you can clean that up. But so I got to work on a collimator, and then after that, it's just making a little frame box and putting it into putting a plastic trash bag and a vacuum cleaner and a filter, and then you just make a dust box, and you can clean the dust out of the air and then clean your sensor up. So, but to get back to the point on that is I've got this whole, to get Saturn and Jupiter, you want to do it full frame, because otherwise, if you're going to take a high resolution image of Saturn and a high resolution of Jupiter and then put them together in a composite with a horizon in the background, that's not, that's kind of a simulation of what you saw. Well, you did see all three things, but now you're kind of making one image. So you see these images where it's like a view across an ocean. You have this reflection of a moon. It's like huge, and you got Diamond Head in the foreground, and you know that image is impossible to take. Somebody crafted that up. So I don't like doing that. I like Dan. I like more of a, this is the thing with as minimal processing as possible. But the conjunction, to get that one field of view with Saturn and Jupiter, that'd be pretty cool. And you got a good point, Steve. One thing is going to be way overexposed and the other one's going to be way underexposed. So I don't know.
Steve, I wanted to thank you for letting me know about this device called a flip mirror. The other day, I was able to find one of those on classified ads and got it, and I'm using it now, and it's pretty cool. You can people can look at the eyepiece, and that's great. And then I flip it over and I get my picture, so everybody's happy.
Yep. I wish I'd have known, Dave, because I got 2 of them.
Well, you can keep them. I only need one for now.
So
thank you anyway.
So is that it? Is that just 10 of us?
Yeah. Anybody else have anything?
3, 6, 9, 10. Yeah. I think Mike fell asleep. Tom probably fell asleep.
I'm not asleep.
Doing something else.
Well, there's Dad.
just as a notice or a reminder that we are sharing some of the data that we're collecting from down at New Mexico. So I just put up there last night the masters for the Leo triplet that it was taken on the short scope down there. So feel free to go up and grab those and process them and mess around with them.
Where's that at?
We sent out an email with the link in it. I'm sure we can send it out again if anybody's missing it.
So that's on the digital IO.
What's that?
Oh, I might. Was that over the digital IO?
Yeah, I believe so.
And I'm going to apologize and say, I'm not going to do it because I'm so colorblind that my results would look so bad.
Well, that would be cool to see. That would be cool to see what you process as color, Steve. I mean,
how about if I tell you once I worked for an hour and a half on the Horsehead Nebula, and I showed my wife, and she said, "That's really good, but isn't it supposed to be red?" It was green.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's what SCNR is for, to take out all the green.
No. Mine was not, you know, like you look at the Horsehead and all the red, all of that was just green.
I know, the picture would disappear if you ran SCNR on it.
Since you guys posted that, why don't you let me, I'll post up a big picture of one of the galaxies. And then why don't you guys send out another email tomorrow and you can include that link too.
Is that LRGB?
Yes.
This, I got to look at Astro Surface. That might be able to process LRGB into one image, but that's going to be.
Yeah, for Steve, I include the filter ratios. So if you want to just plug those into something, it'll get you the colors it should be.
Yeah, that's funny. They show, in the science fiction programs, they show, the ship approaching a nebula, right? And it just gets more and more detailed and brighter and brighter and brighter. When in reality, what'll happen is the closer you get, the dimmer it becomes. So
even me, I'm set in my ways, but I saw something on how to process hydrogen alpha, and I went back and looked at some of my old sharpless images that are mainly hydrogen alpha, and they're remarkably different now. So I'm going back and reprocessing a lot of my old data. I have hours and hours of old stuff that I either didn't post or wasn't happy with it, or it's just barely there. But I found some way where you can, you more or less convert it all to red and for the hydrogen alpha and combine it, and it seems to work really well.
To get an LRGB kind of image?
Yeah, to get a HARGB type image. It really focuses on the red, so to speak. But most of those images are all the red stuff anyway.
So Dan, you're just using a specific formula now for all of it that pretty much is very reliable?
Yeah, the method I was using before was I was combining it, not in PixInsight, but I would combine it, 80% of the hydrogen alpha and 20% of the red, and doing things like that. But I found now that I can more or less use a hydrogen alpha as like a luminance type deal. Yeah. And the way I do that, I found was I can convert it as an RGB, the hydrogen alpha as an RGB. I'll go in and fill the green and the blue with black. So the only channel that has anything in it is the red. And then when I combine it in Photoshop, I will use like a brighten mode, so that it'll only impact the red stuff, because the others are black, so they're darker. And I found that vastly increases the amount of hydrogen alpha that shows through. And it, I don't know.
I stand corrected. Dan likes to do artsy pictures.
Well, I think when you're getting into hydrogen alpha stuff, it's definitely artsy, because you're picking like those handful of nanometers and you're expanding it over the whole range, so to speak.
And I asked you guys about that 3 years ago. Man, I did a whole 30-minute thing. There's all these colors here. What the hell? Well, it's all subjective.
Yeah.
I did all that work and it's just that simple.
I don't know. I'm still not full on level Pix Insight, process the galaxy to make it come out type deal. But I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I love the artsy pictures. But when you see someone pasting on Facebook of, here's a picture I took last night. And you know damn well the moon ain't that big, and Mars will never look like that from that angle. And who the hell puts palm trees in the middle of Las Vegas?
Yeah, you can do anything these days.
Yeah, so that's the thing when they say here's a picture I took last night, as opposed to
Grant, have you ever been to Las Vegas? There are palm trees in the middle of Las Vegas.
As soon as I said Las Vegas, I was thinking Los Animas. You're right, exactly. But it's
There are more palms than 29 palms than 29.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching those older movies where they're in a jungle, like in the middle of Africa, and you hear the kookaburra bird. That's only endemic to New Zealand, but it's a staple in all of those old jungle movies right here. So it just stands out. You just notice it right off the bat. Anyway, so what you guys do when you're processing your images and you get those colors to pop, don't think I'm looking down. That's just amazing. And it's kind of like what 3 years ago when I was asking about true color, it really did occur to me that false color can be more informative than true color and still yield a really nice looking image. Like Dan said, if you're looking for H alpha, you can process an image to bring out more H alpha detail with the background. And now you wind up with a very colorful looking image, but there's a lot of detail that you didn't see earlier. So don't think I'm, just very narrow-minded in one area, but it's really cool. So don't get me wrong.
No? Anyone have anything else?
Maybe we could talk. Maybe we try to figure out how this offline later on. Why this program doesn't really work well with Zoom, play well with Zoom, Dan.
Yeah, that's something we should test. And we can set up a Zoom anytime and mess with it, or
because then when another program does the same thing to some unexpected victim, we can say, "Oh yeah, we ran into that. Here's how you fix that."
Yeah.
If we can. Otherwise, somebody's 2-hour-long presentation might come to a screeching halt. But hey, can you stick around, Dan? I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
It has nothing to do with after photography.
Night all.
Hi, everyone.
Good night.
Great. Thanks.
I'll be at the Saks Library tomorrow night around 5 o'clock.
This has to do with IT, with the internet, with protocols. So anybody wants to stick around and listen to this, because I'm curious.